Before the war, Ukraine's capital Kyiv was Europe's seventh most populous city. It was home to almost 3 million people. Many of them have left due to the Russian attacks that haven't ceased. Shelling and drones regularly target Kyiv. The sounds of air raid sirens pierce the city's skies often, reminding those that have remained that the danger hasn't passed. Yet, Kyiv still stands after 1 year of war. At the beginning of the war, Russia had tried to seize Kyiv. They encircled and tried to blockade the city. Tanks rolled in. There were battles in Kyiv's suburbs. Artillery fire rocked Kyiv. Entire neighborhoods were devastated. On the day the war began, Russian airborne forces assaulted the Antonov airport in the outskirts of Kyiv. They destroyed the Antonov AN-225 Mriya aircraft, the heaviest aircraft in the world, a part of Ukraine's Soviet heritage. 3 days after the war began, that heritage was destroyed. It's almost symbolic of the historical ties between the two nations, going up in smoke. Russia had expected it to be an easy victory, that its forces would be welcomed by Ukrainians, that they would win quickly and install a puppet regime in Kyiv, that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, a former comedian, would flee. But things didn't go according to Moscow's plan.
Я тут, ніяку зброю ми не складемо, будемо захищати нашу державу.
Kyiv's civilians took up arms. They used assault rifles and Molotov cocktails to battle Russian soldiers. The defenders held strong. Ukraine's capital rebuffed the initial assault. Russia faced logistical issues which stalled its offensive. After talks took place between the two warring sides in Istanbul on March 29th, Russia announced the withdrawal of forces from Kyiv. It described the move as a goodwill gesture. After over a month, Russian forces left Ukraine's capital region. But the celebrations in Kyiv were short-lived. They soon gave way to outrage. Russian forces were accused of committing atrocities. The most prominent example was in Bucha on the outskirts of Kyiv. Hundreds of bodies were found buried in mass graves.
Here in this long mass grave, there are about 57 people buried, and here 20 or about 40.
People were found dead on the streets, some with their hands tied behind their back. There was evidence of torture and mutilation. Some of Kyiv's residents expressed their sorrows and hopes through street art. The focus of the war had shifted to Ukraine's east. Russia was assaulting the Donbas region. Residents of the capital wanted to show support for their soldiers. After the Russian retreat, Kyiv was safe for a while. People started cleaning up the damage, rebuilding their capital. Life slowly started to return to the streets of Kyiv.
Откуда? Человек? Логично.
The city was still battered and broken, but the people were defiant. Children were graduating amidst the ruins of their schools. There was even a boom in wartime weddings.
We can register people on the same day, then apply. There is no need to wait a month, as it used to be before the war. Getting married in such tough times is a huge motivation for young couples, since they don't know what will happen tomorrow. Young couples are willing to get married.
But away from the capital, things were changing. Ukraine had launched a counter-offensive. They were pushing back Russian troops from the occupied territories. Russia annexed 4 regions through a referendum like it had done with Crimea in 2014. But things came to a head when a bridge linking Russia to Crimea was blown up. Ukraine didn't claim responsibility, but Moscow was seething. After that, the heavy bombardment of Ukraine began. Kyiv was attacked on October 10th. Among other things, the glass pedestrian bridge in the city was shelled. Its plight was reminiscent of the Crimea bridge attack, but Kyiv's bridge didn't fall. Russia has regularly targeted Kyiv since. It has not only used missiles but also Iranian drones. Kyiv's energy infrastructure in particular has been badly hit. This began as winter was setting in. Most of the city's residents didn't have power to keep the heat on. Many took refuge in underground rail stations, which also serve as makeshift bomb shelters. Kyiv's situation has remained similar ever since. It gets bombed regularly. Big occasions like New Year's Day usually sees intensified attacks. This is the new normal for the capital of Ukraine. Kyiv, like much of the country, has seen it all. Death, devastation and destruction. But a year later, it still stands, defiant.